Hi, everyone. My name is Dr. Brian Glass, and this is the Diabetes Voices of Strength podcast. And today I have the honor of being joined by one of the greatest diabetes advocacy warriors that we have here in the United States, Bob Parant. Bob, welcome.
Thank you. That's quite an introduction for me. Thank you very much.
Yeah, it's well deserved, well deserved. So, as we do with all of these diabetes oral history testimonies, let's start at the beginning. Tell us about your diagnosis, how old you were, when it happened, what were your symptoms?
Okay. Well, we go back quite a ways. Um, I guess I'll start with the diagnosis. I was brought up in Long Island, New York, um, by two beautiful parents, very religious upbringing, very strict, not really telling much of your feelings and thoughts, but that was great. And as I got older and then got into college, I wanted to go away. I took a year or a year and a half with community college. And then I went away. And it was the first time I was ever going to be away on my own. And I was saying, hey, it's time for me to grow up. Let me go away. I was always into athletics and sports. So I was redshirted for baseball. So I went out for football, a whole bunch of friends there, not a great big program at all at a state college up in upstate New York. And a couple of days after practice started, and you had to have a physical, the coach called me into his office and he said, son, you got a very serious disease there. It's called diabetes mellitus. You need to go home and take care of this as soon as possible. And
Wow.
I said, diabetes mellitus. I said, I know diabetes. I did know someone in high school that had it and walked around with orange juice, but uh, that was that was all I knew.
Yeah.
So sent home, no rush. Didn't say much about my blood sugars or anything like that. So I went home and went to the doctor, GP, um, took the glucose tolerance test and all that, and they said, yes, you have diabetes mellitus. You're going to have to take shots of insulin, follow a diet, and most of the time in type 1s that we see these days, they don't really live as long as most people because they run into certain complications with the heart, with the eyes. And, I started to hear that kind of stuff. So, there was nothing back then. It was a brochure, but that was about it. There was no education on food. There was no education on insulin. There was no education on taking the shots. So I was on my own. I went back to college probably 2 weeks later, walked in to see the coach. He says, no, that's too dangerous. We don't think you should be on the team. So I walked across the field where I had a bunch of friends playing rugby.
Uh,
So I started to play rugby right after the diagnosis. Didn't think much of it, took my shot and watched the exchange diet, one from column B, one from column A. Was using pork insulin.
mhm.
I was lucky enough to get the newer syringes, but in the hospital in the first couple of weeks, I was using the oldest type of syringe that you had to kind of sterilize every time you used it.
Wow.
But there was nothing from nobody I knew in college had type 1.
Yeah.
I just went back and started to be who I was before.
What year was this, Bob?
This was 1972.
Okay.
I guess you would refer to it as some people did back then as sex, drugs, and rock and roll in 1972. But it was also a tumultuous time where a lot was going on with me, a lot going on with the Vietnam War.
Yeah.
I did not get drafted. I was very lucky with that. But living with this disease just kind of disappeared from me. I just woke up like brushing my teeth and take the shot and hope for the best.
Right.
So as you went along those years of finishing up college and then starting a career, I didn't know my blood sugar for 10 years. You know,
That's
you were
crazy.
you were urinating on a stick and it showed you a color and you did nothing about it.
Yeah.
So 10 years without knowing your blood sugar. Now that you have Dexcom or a CGM and you can see what it does hourly, I
Right.
go back in my mind hourly, what was going on? So um, I got a job in sales, in the pharmaceutical sales, right around 77. Came back to New York. I had a Brooklyn territory, which was stressful in itself. It's not a good area. But I was on my own again too. So you're in your car, you go to the doctors, you go to the pharmacies, you go to the hospitals. So I was a pharmaceutical rep.
Yeah.
Um, and like in sports, it's sales. So I loved it as far as making my numbers and creating good relationships. And I wound up to be successful. So I went to a hospital rep and then I went to a district manager. And I kind of saw too much as I went into the district manager side of things. And I just was not happy with what I saw and what was going on.
Uh-huh.
I was very satisfied with my job and I was getting promoted in pharma to get to the district manager within 8 years was pretty good showing. Um, but I left and I saw in the West Coast the HMO started to come into effect in that time frame, and they allowed the for-profits to come into New York. So with that, I joined up an organization called U.S. Healthcare,
Okay.
capitated system, a little different than some other HMO models.
Right.
Great company. They trained you for 4 weeks on exactly what they were doing, how they were trying to work with it, the actual policy and law that was in effect for offering an HMO. So I enjoyed that. But it was like I jumped on the other side of the fence, and now I'm promoting this thing that no one in New York knew what it was.
Right.
So, so I was like questioning whether I should have moved or not from pharmaceuticals. But again, I think during that stress, strain, and learning and that process, I always said to myself, just bear down. I think it was probably 82, 83 where I first got my first finger stick
Okay.
and started to be able to see back then. And I went to a new endocrinologist who then put me on 2 shots a day. It
Okay.
was
Was this
it was
human insulin?
at that time no, it
No.
was lente and then another shot ultra lente,
Okay.
long and you used to put them in the same syringe in the afternoon. So, and I would always remember being on the road, and at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, I just was like really kind of bonking out.
Uh-huh.
Back in those days, of course it's low, but what did you know until
Right.
you started to get these really bad lows, and
Yeah.
that's a whole feeling in itself and story in itself. Is what does a low blood sugar feel like?
Well, they
So
say it is a near-death experience.
yes, and I've had that.
Yeah.
Definitely have had that a couple of times. And so I moved on and loved my job. So I did the pharmaceutical for 10 years, met beautiful people. I built teams. So I had teams of people. So I was the one kind of hiring and training. And it was such a reward for me
Right.
to see people succeed and move on to higher levels. And even today, a lot of people I went to the training with the HMOs are now CEOs of healthcare companies.
Uh-huh.
So that knowledge and that training was amazing.
So,
And the HMO Act of 1972 came into effect,
okay.
where these organizations started to go for profit and were able to go into different states.
Uh-huh.
Uh, so it started to grow, and it started to grow along with the founder, Len Abramson, that was a pioneer in this type of thing. and he did a great job with it. And it became more and more like insurance after a couple of years. Like our competition came out with not a strict HMO, but a way to get out of the network.
Okay.
You a
Yeah.
lot of times it was in-network only doctors, and some people didn't like that. They wanted to go to their own doctors. They didn't like the sound of that at all.
Right.
But it was very, very affordable, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Uh, and I flourished, I think. I did a good job. And along the way, I did not tell the upper management of my organizations. And I stuck with those organizations for 9 years and then 24 years.
Long time.
And they did not know that I had type 1 diabetes. All of my reps and people that I dealt with on a daily basis, they knew I used to go into the bathroom, take a shot, um, you know, take the finger prick. Some of my clients knew, but not much other than that.
Were
And
you
people,
worried? Were you worried that you would lose your job if they found out you were a diabetic?
yeah, there was definitely times where I thought possibly they might see what really goes on and how I have to what I have to deal with.
Right.
But I never let it affect me in any way, whether it be exercise. I was a runner for 15 years.
Okay.
I never gave any of that up.
Good for you.
So along the way, probably in the mid 80s, started to have eye problems. The first indication was retinopathy. And I
Right.
started to see floaters and didn't know what that was and didn't know much about retinopathy.
Yeah.
Although I was in the field, I could ask doctors that I worked with, what is it? So I did learn everything I could. I think one of the things I said back then is I became the CEO of my own body
You
because
have
because of
to.
diabetes, you're the doctor. You're picking the foods, you're picking the dosages, you're picking the carbohydrates,
Right.
all of that, and making those decisions and doing it for yourself.
Yeah.
Um, so as that started to progress, um, it was not fun. I did not know what it was. I thought I was going to go blind. I did have to go for the procedures pretty quickly when they saw it. Back then, they were doing very heavy laser surgery, which means they go into your eye and
Yeah.
they shine a very bright laser into your retina or macula in the middle of your eye, so it'll stop bleeding. So
Oh.
you're oozing blood out of your eye,
Yeah.
and it gets in the way of the retina to show the picture of what you're seeing.
Right.
So that was really scary.
Yeah.
And to this day, I still have a lot of spots, and I do have macular edema. So it continues, but it's gotten much better. But back in those days, very scary by yourself. I don't know who to talk to about retinopathy, or I didn't give me too much of a feedback that I was going to be zapped 1,000 times and it's going to smell like my eye is burning.
Right.
Uh, so that was totally scary and part
Of
of the,
course.
complications coming into reality.
Right.
Okay. It's still pretty young. It's reality. It's very definite. You could lose your sight um, a little bit each year and keep losing it. And
Right.
that's one of the top complications of diabetes, and I think one of the
Sure.
most that comes up in the early times. So then, started to do a few different things. I started to run every day at 5 o'clock in the morning with a bunch of people. I continued that for 15 years, but I
Okay.
never, here's something for you. I never ran with, a whole bunch of stuff with me. Nowadays, I got a whole man bag full of stuff,
Yeah.
in case I go low.
Right. Of
Back in
course.
those days, I didn't eat, so there was no insulin on board. I would run 5 miles a day, 4, 5, 6 miles a day, and carry 3 or 4 little tablets of glucose in my little running shorts.
Well, this is before human insulin, though, correct?
I'm trying to remember when human insulin came in. It might have been around that time that we
Oh,
started to use the human insulin.
okay, because they say that human insulin causes more, hypoglycemia than did the pork insulin.
Right, right. So not that I knew, but I did, fasting, no breakfast,
Right.
exercise. So there was no insulin on board. So I'm learning today, after all this reading and everything about exercise, that no insulin on board is a great thing. And to exercise in the morning is, at least from what I see in my world, that it's very, very helpful for me.
Sure.
So I did the running. Started to get more involved with JDRF as we sponsored. HMO was, keep yourself healthy, go run the marathon or the half marathon in Long Island and we'll sponsor it. So we started to do a lot of that. And I
Okay.
started to see that there was other organizations out there starting to work with diabetics. It was before computers, so it still was not anything that I could read, touch base with other people that are
Sure.
doing this and that and give me advice, which we have today.
Right.
So I continued to do that and a few other complications along the way.
Sure.
Uh, I bent down to uh, tee up a ball in golf after the retinopathy, probably 2 or 3 years, and blood started to appear in my eye.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was like a roadmap of red blood. Every time, and I moved my eye, the blood would move with it
Oh
like
my
a
gosh.
map. And I said, "What the heck is this?" And I thought it was going away, and I just had to get off the course. And the doctor said, "We can't take care of that. You just have to wait 6 months." I said, 6 months for this to go away? I can't even think about that. It was constant.
Yeah.
And I found a doctor, a good retinologist, that is my diabetic doctor, eye doctor today.
Okay.
And he did what's called a vitrectomy, which most of the other uh, retinopathy doctors wouldn't do back then.
Okay.
So it's a way of replacing the vitreous fluid in your eye.
Oh, interesting.
So it's amazing. I was in and out, and that blood was gone.
How long had you been a type 1 diabetic when you had this procedure done?
Oh boy, it's kind of tough on the dates. I had to be in my 40s.
Okay, so you'd been
I was
diabetic
a
for
little
20
older,
some years
right?
when this happened, because you were diagnosed when you were 20, correct?
Yep, 19 actually, but
19.
yeah, a couple of months before my birthday, and yeah, 20 years old. So yeah, it was probably a bunch of years after the retinopathy showed up,
I
and it
see.
was just I just bent down to put a ball on the tee and stood up, and it was there.
Wow.
So I was by myself. I was with three other guys that I didn't know,
Yeah.
and went home. I called my wife. She came to get me. I couldn't drive, and it was really, another experience of diabetes.
Right. So question, what was
Um,
the reaction of your family when you were diagnosed?
Mom and dad were older,
Okay.
and knew nothing about diabetes. Um, had two sisters older than me that knew nothing about diabetes, so
Yeah.
there was no reaction. It was just that I had to take a shot
Okay.
and to follow my diet, and I probably wouldn't live too long.
Wow.
So they knew really very little,
Very
as
little.
most people today don't know until they get diagnosed and it comes into the family.
Yeah.
And then I went away, so I wasn't really around the family
Right.
during that time. It was all, my college buddies and playing rugby and trying to stay in shape and trying to eat the right things. So it was really all on my own, all on my own.
Yeah, the Lone Ranger. Yeah, that's how most diabetics feel. They feel
Yeah,
like they are alone. And I've been a professor for 14 years now, and I think I've had three type 1 diabetics in those 14 years in my classes, or at least three who admitted that they were type 1
Yeah,
diabetics.
right. Yeah.
That's not a lot. I've taught thousands and thousands of students.
Right. Yeah, so that wasn't really part of the deal until you got into the computer and probably years later, where the social media started to talk about what they were doing with diabetes,
Right.
that I started to learn even more. I was in pharmaceuticals, I was in insurance, I was good with medical terminology and medical procedures. So I was always aware of what was going on.
Yeah.
And then as I went through that, I had a brief bout with gastroparesis,
Uh-huh.
which is a pretty ugly thing, very ugly thing. But somehow it came and went. I don't experience it anymore, and I wouldn't want to have anybody experience it. It's really just a breakdown of your stomach, doesn't break down the food. So it
Was this causing you acid reflux?
basically, yes, even worse, terrible,
Even worse.
terrible bodily functions were not doing well.
Fascinating. Yeah.
Really bad, losing weight.
Uh-huh.
Um, so from that, it continued, where I just said, I'm not going to let it stop me. I started doing marathons and half marathons, not marathons, half marathons. I thought marathons were bodily punishment. Um, but yeah, no, I always stayed active. That was the thing. I always stayed active, and I always said to myself, everybody has something. It's really up here of how you act or your attitude towards that, of
Right.
how you're going to live your life.
Yeah,
Um,
the diabetics
and
I've spoken to who have been diabetics for 50 years plus, that is always the key component. They were always active. The people who lasted the longest are the ones who stayed active, who tried to stay healthy, as much as they possibly could, especially when you didn't know what your sugar was. And I mean, now there's so much technology. Granted, it is not easy. It's still very, very difficult to manage it,
mhm,
but it was just downright medieval when you
yeah,
were in the early years. Yeah.
um, yeah, and that was tough.
Yeah.
That was tough, but
Yeah.
um, I think as I state to a lot of the type ones that are new and I meet them and young kids and kind of teenagers, I believe in circulation. I think circulation is key. You
Right.
got to keep that blood moving. And as diabetics, we know our blood is like Coke syrup in our
Yes, it
veins.
is. Yeah.
I actually did see a vial once with real blood, bright red, very active movement in the
Yeah.
test tube. And the other one was like probably Coke syrup with red dye, but very slow and moving.
Wow.
Um, and that's what I say clears out your circulatory system, and you got to keep it going every day.
Got to keep moving.
And to this day, I'm on my Peloton in the morning.
Okay.
I'm a little afraid to ride on the roads nowadays, but still active. And I agree with you 100% on that.
Yeah. Yeah. I've my wife for Christmas, she bought me a standing desk because, a lot of my work as a historian is sitting down and writing.
Mhm.
And that is not good for my glucose. So the more
Right.
I can stay up and I can stay moving, the better off my health is going to be. And so I just cannot stay in one seated position for long. It's the worst thing. At least I feel it's the worst thing that I could do to myself.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I feel so much better when I ride and get off the bike. And, it's just a great feeling. And that's my mental health, to tell you the truth. Uh,
Absolutely. Well, so before we get to mental health, because I definitely want to touch on this at length because it's something that gets forgotten all the time in terms of type 1 diabetics. But uh, so I'm assuming you are on a CGM now. Is that correct? Tell us
correct.
tell us about your treatment today. How do you treat your diabetes today?
Yeah, that's really kind of a timing thing. Right now, Um, I cannot get a sensor, CGM sensor, to last more than 6 days.
Oh.
I moved to the new,
Are you on
um,
Dexcom or
yeah,
Libre?
yeah. I don't know if you want to talk about
Yeah,
a
yeah, yeah,
company.
absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm on Dex 7. I was on the 6. It wasn't that bad. I'm on the Omnipod 5.
Okay.
I decided on that pre-Medicare because it didn't have the tubing.
Right.
So when I was running or biking, I didn't have to worry about the tubing, and I liked the idea of just the pod. So
Sure.
I went to that. I can't even remember how many years ago, but originally I was on the Deltec Cosmo,
Okay.
which was I thought it was a great pump early on.
Okay.
And I did resist a little bit, but my CDE, Certified Diabetic Educator, said you got to be on a pump. You're running, you got to be on this pump and try it. So I did back then, and then I went to the Omnipod, and then Dex, and then Dex 6, and then Dex 7.
Okay.
Um, and I'm familiar with all of them. I look into all of them, all of the new ones,
Yeah.
the ones coming out with new algorithms. Unfortunately, today some don't aren't compatible with others.
Right.
The new ones that are out, the Twist and some others aren't compatible with certain CGMs.
Right.
And I don't know what I'm doing wrong with the G7 right now.
So
It's
is it
just
just
hard.
erroring out or is it
Yeah.
falling off or what's happening?
And not falling off. In fact, the I got a black and blue from the glue um, the other day, and it's just wrong readings, completely wrong, telling me I'm low, and then I take a finger prick and I'm really around 200 numerous times. It dies in 6 days, not 10. I didn't go to the 15 yet on the G7.
Right.
I so that's what I've been managing it with lately. My endocrinologist is very happy with my A1Cs over the last, whatever, 5, 6 years.
Yeah.
I've been in the sevens and a little bit lower and into the sixes at times.
Perfect. Yeah.
Um, Not too many ups and downs. So I watch time and range.
Yep.
I think that's more important than the A1C.
Yeah, I
Uh,
agree. Yep.
so I've been following that and really trying to get at it, and haven't been having some trouble with the technology.
Interesting.
And I guess as an older person and a senior, we're not as good with the technology as the kids of today. Kids of today just pick it up and as like they do a phone and they know what to do already.
Well, and then when
Um,
something works well, they just decide to constantly change it. It's like they like, oh, we just have to alter this in some way, not necessarily making it any better, just making it
right.
more confusing and creating yet another learning curve, which we don't need.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So within the Medicare population, I talk to all these people that, oh my God, they're switching it again. Oh, how does this work? So the Medicare population is, one that was not brought up with technology and
Yeah.
today probably struggles a lot
Of course.
with this type of technology. And when it changes, do you trust it? You use this for the last 5 years. So there's a lot of that. And I think back to the DRI in '05, and all these things were starting to come out.
That's the Diabetes
See,
Research Institute in Miami, for those of you who don't
yeah.
know.
So that started to say, I don't want any more technology, although it's great. I do like it. I do use it. But for me, let's get down to some of these other things that are going on behind the scenes with research.
Yeah.
Cell therapy, the pouch that DRI was working on, and some of the other companies, and what they're doing now with cells and making cells
Sure.
and donor cells. So all that started to become very interesting to me as I got older and that's where I got back into the DRI and trying to show what they're doing out there,
Right.
so that people can give funds to the researchers.
Right.
Kind of feel that I don't know where funds are going in some other organizations.
Sure.
And I think it should be for the research. Technology's great, but they're still making money off of us. And I'm still paying a lot of money. I'm paying out of pocket for Omnipod because they don't cover it under Part D for Medicare.
Really?
It's considered a durable medical good. So on Medicare, you pay for the Omnipods. I just paid $650 the other day.
Oh my God.
Yes, yes. So, along with the technology confusion and the rise in research interest, I chose the research interest and started to um, advocate. I
Yeah.
did lose my leg in 2010. That was
2010. Yeah. Explain that. What happened?
Oh God. That's I was in sales. I wore a suit every day back then. It wasn't casual.
Yeah.
Dress shoes. I was in the city for a short time. Most of the time I was not in an office and not going to the city. But appointments, and I did have an office in the city. So um, my shoes caused a um, blister on my big toe, right here on the outside of my
Oh.
big toe.
Oh my.
And that was it. A blister on my big toe, got worse. I'm trying to heal it. Wasn't healing well. After so many years of type 1, the blood doesn't get all the way down to those micro vessels of the toes.
Yeah.
And why they want you to watch, which I did. I went to a podiatrist and she was starting to heal. She opened it up and that was the end. It never closed after that.
Oh my
So it was two
gosh.
years of hyperbaric chamber, a piece of skin from my thigh that they put over the toe that didn't work. I had the doctors arguing over what should be done. You had a wound specialist saying, "Let's debride it for the next 6 months. I know what I'm doing. I'm head of, NYU foot care." The uh, Not the cardiologist, but the vascular guy said, "Take the toe. You know, you're not going to get away with this. I've seen so much, and it could get worse." And then somehow a plastic surgeon got involved and said he would do a skin graft and put it over my toe. You decide. So they were all arguing amongst each other. No discussion with me that was meaningful, in my opinion. Um, so I went with the toe, and it started with this part of the toe, next part of the toe got infected, became osteomyelitis,
Oh
and
no.
just kept on going. And even then, they couldn't find the infection or fix the infection. I had one amputation below the knee, and then two revisions, which means they cut me two more times.
Oh my goodness gracious.
Yeah, it was really a very trying time for me, my family, my life.
I'm
Was
sure.
am I going to get through this? I mean, it was
Yeah.
hard. Stuff I went through. I must have gone through 14 procedures or so
And it all
with the
started with
leg.
a blister on the outside of your toe.
Yes, yes, and that's why I really promote early screening for type ones on the eyes and the feet
Yeah.
for sure. Yeah. So then I got out of that 2 years. I finally got a prosthetic. I think it was in 2011.
Okay.
And here's a pretty good story, though, that my son at that time was just finishing up college. And his girlfriend had a friend that was was working for the bike ride for JDRF.
Oh, okay.
She said she was going to do it. My son said he was going to do it, and his girlfriend in my honor
Oh, that's nice.
in Death Valley.
Oh, wow.
So, so went through all that. I was rehabbing at the time with a prosthetic. I asked for a bike leg. The guy made me a bike leg. I started working out early 11
Yeah.
and when he came in from 100 miles in Death Valley, 105 degrees, cried like a baby. Cried like a baby, and it just got in my heart and it got in my soul. So the
Yeah.
guy that was in charge of the ride, JDRF, nice guy, he's still around. Really good, good motivator. I said, I'm coming back next year. And he says, okay, I'll see you, Bob. So I did go back. I didn't go to Death Valley, but I went to Burlington, Vermont,
A little
and I was
cooler.
able hills.
Yeah.
And but I did 65 miles
Oh,
with my
wow.
new prosthetic leg. I got the Spirit Award, which is the most inspirational rider for that particular ride.
Excellent.
Then really started to get into JDRF and what I could do for them and how I could help them. And it was, again, an attitude thing. Like, how am I getting up this hill? But I just said, I've got this disease. If I can do that, I can get up this hill too.
That's right.
So,
We have to be the little engine that could, right? I think I can.
yeah,
I think I can.
yeah. So then, um, now off the topic of my treatment, but the next was really where I started with the advocacy.
Okay.
But the advocacy started then because after I did the ride, I was very much entrenched with JDRF. I got in touch, well, I was already in touch with them, working with them in the Long Island district, and they were doing kids' days in the schools. I was going to talk to the kids in school. I was on the Speakers Bureau. I was the head of the gala for 1 or 2 years. So I did everything, and that to me was my job
Right.
for those years. So it was 2012 to 2016, whenever COVID hit, and
Or 20
I did
20
everything.
2020. You mean?
2020, yeah.
Yeah.
So I did everything for them, possible, and I loved it. It was like my job, and I loved the employees at the Long Island District. Never really got to meet the CEO or anything like that. Um, and they had a situation, and as all nonprofits do, they were having a tough time with funding.
Right.
They closed the Long Island office, and I kind of had a tough feeling on me of the way they treated me and others within that
Sure.
district.
Yeah.
Um,
That's always
you
it's
know,
always difficult. So tell us about your continued advocacy and how you wound up in the Rose Garden with President Biden as he signed the Inflation Reduction Act. And as I understand it, you actually introduced him when
yeah,
he
to
came
me,
out to sign it. Tell us about
yeah,
that.
2 minute speech. So again, part of the advocating and part of me not thinking my story was very important and not telling it. So over those years at JDRF, I started to tell my story. I was doing the Speakers Bureau, and started to become more and more interesting to people. So after JDRF, I left. I wanted to do more. I started to look at DRI, and then I got an email saying they were doing a Hill Day in Washington, D.C., and it was for diabetics.
Okay.
So the organization was Diabetes Patient Advocacy Coalition. So this was
Deepak. Yeah.
DPAC. Yep. So this goes back to 2021.
Okay.
I met somebody, I met the leader, and they were doing a Hill Day in Washington, training people to what to do when you go in to see the representatives in Congress, what the bills were we were working on. We were
Sure.
working on actually CGMs back then, and a few other policies. And it was that also very interesting, the training, the people I met started to become some of the top advocates in the country.
Okay.
And we stayed friends and, formed relationships. So out of that, one of my JDRF friends' daughter was working at another organization called Patients for Affordable Drugs.
Okay.
before AD, and that's all drugs, not just diabetes.
Sure.
Um, Again, a great organization. David Mitchell started it. He
Okay.
had he had some kind of blood cancer that he was paying hundreds of thousands of dollars for.
Okay.
And couldn't afford it,
Yeah.
and started to see nobody else could afford it. The PBMs came into play during that time, and I know
And
about PBMs from
PBMs are
the
pharmacy benefit managers.
correct, correct. And I knew all that from being in insurance. I knew what they did and how they did it. Um, so that got really ugly. And as I got into Medicare, I was paying $600 a month um, for Medicare. So when I got to that organization, they loved my story. I kind of hit it off with them, great group of people.
Yeah.
Um, and at that time, they were just starting out, so they weren't that big. They've really grown over the last couple of years tremendously. Um, so they knew I could talk to legislators. They knew my story. They knew of me and what I did at JDRF. So
Right.
one Sunday, I'm driving home from my place out east with my wife, and I get a call that could I make it to Washington, D.C. next Tuesday, this Tuesday, to introduce President Biden in the Rose Garden to talk about the Inflation Reduction Act and the $35 for Medicare recipients.
For
I said,
insulin,
what?
yeah, $35 caps per month.
Right.
Yeah.
So, I said, what? Tuesday? And and
What day of the week was it when you got the
it was a
call?
Sunday.
That
It
was
was a
Sunday.
Sunday,
You had to be there in two
Sunday,
days. Okay.
Sunday night. I'm driving home. So yeah, and it was like my wife's going, "You gotta go, you gotta go," and I'm like, "It's kind of short notice. I got to introduce him in the White House." So
Were
they
you able to get
called
a
me, and
plane ticket? How'd you get down there?
yeah, no, they called me, and I had to talk to people at DC before I was approved.
Oh wow.
So I got on the phone with a couple of people from DC, uh, confirming my story and information and security and all that.
Sure.
They did fly me down,
Oh,
so
okay.
I stayed overnight. Had delay, so I didn't get there till midnight.
Okay.
And they gave me a 2-minute thing that we both wrote together, but we had to give it to the people in the White House. They made a few adjustments on it, and 2 minutes, that's it.
Okay.
I had to practice it at midnight when I got in the night before, trying to time it and all that. So
Sure.
nervous. So the whole thing. Next morning, the organization invited me to their office, calmed me down, had me practice a little bit, and then we went straight off to the White House. And checking in, walking in. I had to get a COVID test by the doctor, uh, the White House doctor.
Oh wow.
And,
Okay.
and then we kind of sat around a little bit. I had a one-on-one with him. They had a whole agenda, one-on-one with him 15 minutes before the talk. They brought me into the West Wing, and I was sitting there for about a half hour. And the photographer, he was White House photographer, was there, and he was explaining all the pictures that were on the wall
Okay.
and what they represented, and it was so cool.
Yeah.
Um, and then we're waiting, and outside, right next to me in the West Wing, is the door to the Oval Office. So he comes out. He goes, "Hi, Bob. How you doing?"
This is
And
President Biden you're talking about.
President Biden in
Okay.
his Oval Office with probably about 50 reporters and cameras clicking and all that. So he was very knowledgeable about diabetes.
Okay.
He's very knowledgeable about Medicare. I had asked him, well, what about Medicare for the rest of the people? $35 would be great. He
Right.
goes, we tried that, but they wouldn't go for it. So at least we got for the Medicare population.
Uh-huh.
So for me, that was an honor for my Medicare
Sure.
recipients that are like me and the elderly that is like me.
Sure.
So that was a feeling in my heart that still to this day affects me. Um,
That's
I walked
wonderful.
out. I walked out of the side door,
Yeah.
which goes right out into the rose garden,
Okay.
the old rose garden, which was very pretty and nice. Um,
I've
the
never
new
I've never
one.
been to the White House, so
Oh, okay. Well,
I don't know the dynamics.
I didn't either, but now there's a new
Oh,
one
okay.
from the new
Oh,
leader.
okay.
So it was the old one. We walk out to a full band of Hail to the Chief,
Okay.
and I got pictures of me walking out with him.
Oh, all right.
And there was 3 steps down, and then the podium was, another 20 yards in front of me.
Okay.
3 steps. Didn't want to fall down with the leg.
Oh, no.
So, so I took the steps very carefully and went down. And I look at the podium, and they said, "No one's going to introduce you. You go straight up to the podium
And
and
you,
you do your introduction of
wow.
President Biden."
Okay.
So almost now I'm shaking again, but I was shaking. I did not think words were going to come out of my mouth. But
It's a fantastic story.
and I walk up, and it was a beautiful day. That's how I started. What a beautiful day. And it just, the good Lord, the stars, whatever you want to say, people said I killed it.
No, that's great. I need to see it. That's what I need.
I, I can send you.
Yes,
I
please
have it.
send it to us, and then we will put it in here. We'll splice it into the interview.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, no, it was quite a moment, quite an honor. Still do more work with patients with patients afford drugs for affordability,
Yeah,
patients for affordable drugs quite a
sure.
bit, DPAC quite a bit, DRI quite a bit. So I still do all that, and I'm involved with uh, the online community. I give my thoughts here and there. I'm not very vocal,
Right,
but I do say what I have to say at times, and in supporting DPAC and Patients for Affordable Drugs and DRI for sure.
right.
So you can see that all over my social media, and that's where I became involved and an advocate. And I can't stand what the pharmaceutical companies are doing to people, not only in diabetes, but in some of these other conditions. They're paying hundreds of thousands of dollars. The PBMs are pocketing rebates that should have been passed along. Many years ago, they came up with a new system and decided to go to a vertical market, and everybody gets a piece of the pie.
Most people don't know what PBMs are,
I
and
know.
I think if they found out what PBMs were, I think the level of anger would be through the roof.
Well, that's kind of what I try to tell people.
Yeah,
I say PBMs, I use all the logistics and logos and stuff, and they still don't know. I got to really spell it out. And they don't have really, even after the explanation and understanding, because it's so complex.
well, it's made
What,
complex on purpose to confuse
yes,
people.
yes.
Yeah,
Yeah. So that's kind of the story. I love doing the advocacy work now. Um, I would love to see, the Insulin Act right now. We're pushing for that.
right.
There was a DPAC mission a couple weeks ago. I wasn't able to make that one, but I've made all the others. They had 100 people this time, I think, going or close to it.
It's
And
fantastic.
that's how we get the word out.
Yeah.
And like I said, I never thought my story would be something I would be telling people.
It's fantastic. And that's what we as diabetics, we need to do this. We need to tell our stories. We need to make our stories known because there's absolutely no way that we're going to make any progress as long as people are constantly confusing types of diabetes, don't have an
Mhm.
understanding of diabetes, think that diabetes is cured simply because you're on insulin and you're using a pump or multiple daily injections and you've got a continuous glucose meter. People
Right.
simply don't know.
No.
There is a true level of ignorance out there around diabetes that is staggering, and it's up to us
Mhm.
It's up to
Yes.
us as the diabetic community to make sure that that information becomes more widely known, and so that we do see change. As long as we stay in the shadows, nothing's going to change. So
Right.
tell me where that's a fantastic story about you introducing President Biden for his signing of the Inflation Reduction Act. And you've talked about your physical complications at length, but tell us about how diabetes has affected your mental and emotional well being.
Mm, that's a good question. Um, well, I look back at it, I guess, as I was brought up, you know, kind of not really telling my feelings,
Yeah,
and being quiet about it. Um, it has enabled me to understand that you need an attitude of positivity.
yeah,
So, something happens yesterday, and I can't dwell on that. Whether it's a vitrectomy, whether it's my leg, whether it's my blood sugars, it's over.
right,
And I think that it taught me organization, structure, empathy for others as part of a lifestyle that I wouldn't have had if I didn't have diabetes.
sure,
So I believe that, we all have something, and it's the way we handle it that develops within our life. How do we handle it? It's something we have, it's a problem, it's an issue. What are we going to do about it? How are we going to handle it? And what you just said before is I wanted to show people that I could ride a bike, I
yeah,
could without a leg, I could run a half marathon with type 1 diabetes, I could play rugby. So all that, in my opinion, showed that I was able to do this as well as have type 1 diabetes and live with it.
right,
So it's a plus. It was a plus for me. There's a lot of bad times in there, and
sure,
God, the 2 years with the leg, oh my God. But, I'm spiritual in nature, and, I look for the good, not for the bad. And I think that is something that I learned from diabetes.
that's what you have to do. I think that that was the thing that I learned early on was I need to be structured in my life. I need to be disciplined in my life. And even then,
Mhm.
that's what people don't understand is you can do everything right and your glucose can still
They'll
spike.
be wrong. Yeah.
Or you think your glucose is going to spike from stress because it normally spikes from stress, and then you bottom out and you wind up going extremely low and maybe being hospitalized as a result of seizures or something like that.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
it's a constant balancing act. I feel like I'm on a high wire, you know,
Mm.
consistently, but the best way to kind of even it out is to be structured, to be
Right.
disciplined. And
Yeah.
again, be positive. Try to be positive
Yeah.
constantly because
Try. You just got to try.
you
You got to
try, you
really try.
try. It's not always possible, especially when your blood sugar is fluctuating.
Right. Right.
It's still not always possible.
One other thing that I will mention, which I always do if I remember and I get the chance, is caregivers.
Yeah,
My wife has been with me since high school. She has seen every ugly possible thing that could go wrong.
yeah,
She's been involved. She's been there. She's been there with me. I have two boys, older now, grown up. Um, you know, the family is affected 100%. It's not just
absolutely.
me,
Yeah,
it's my wife. I mean, the stories she would tell would be 100% different than the stories I tell, but they
right.
are still stories from her side and what she went through and how she has dealt with this for we were married 49 years, and I went out with her a few years before we even got married. So, and I got diabetes at 19, so she has observed that whole life. And just like anybody else, I think what really got me when I started to do Little League and some of the people knew I had type 1 diabetes, and their kids got diagnosed is talking to those parents.
Sure.
The parents of a newly diagnosed child is probably the toughest thing you can ever do. They don't know what just happened to them.
Right.
It happened yesterday, and they got to start today,
That's right.
changing the way they feel. And they take on things as you have a child, you take on things a lot more than you normally would about yourself.
Right.
So the child, they're just so anxious about learning and knowing what to do and what's right and what's wrong. So that really triggers me a lot is the kids and the caregivers.
The caregivers are true heroes. There's no
Yeah,
doubt. There's
yeah.
absolutely no doubt. Um, I always tell so. The first date with my wife, I told her, I said to her on the first date, one of the first things out of my mouth is, I'm a type 1 diabetic and I understand if you want to leave right now.
Oh wow.
Right.
And she did.
Because
Yeah,
I know the hell that it is. Right.
right.
Diabetes is
Yep.
hell. Living with it is hell. I hate diabetes.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
I want to kill diabetes in the worst way.
Me and my wife do as well. My
Yeah.
wife says that often because I spend too much time on it, and it's affected us quite a bit.
Yeah. And
But
but that's the thing, right? The people who love us, who stick with us, who
yes.
are there to care for us when we can't care for ourselves.
Hmm.
It's amazing what they give up because
Right.
they love us.
Yeah. And then there's us 70, I'll be 74 in December. So
Okay.
there's more and more people getting that 50-year medal
I
and
know.
75-year medal that now we got to deal with elderly diabetics and what they run into, and do they plan for their future? Do they know
Right.
what's going to happen in the future? Is their family going to be around? All that kind of stuff is
Sure.
now another whole discussion within this age group.
Absolutely. So, one final question for you, Bob. Is there anything about your experience with type 1 diabetes that I haven't asked, but you feel is really important to share?
Hmm. Good question again. um I think I mentioned all the complications,
Yeah.
and I'm sure people nowadays that are on the pumps and on the CGMs have a better understanding of their blood sugars than I did early on. I think in the early days, people that got it in the 70s and 60s and even 80s didn't have any of this type of education or personal contact with others that
Right.
really, really helps. So I think the computer and social media really has helped me develop a platform that I can go on and try to help others. I
Yeah.
did mention it before. You asked me about it, but I think the complications sometimes scares people. Um, when I see my leg, or oh, is that from the diabetes, or so
Yeah.
um, I tell them the truth.
Yeah.
I tell them the truth, and those were tough times, and they're tough times to think back on. But I try to stay away from it.
Yeah.
But again, today I'm not afraid to talk about it. In the past, oh, what happened to your leg, and oh, did you have any problems? And no, it's what it is. It is what it is, and you got to learn to live with it. So that's basically, I think the story is stay positive,
Yeah.
keep the blood circulating, keep moving, and try to think about what's ahead, not what happened behind.
Yeah. I think that is absolutely excellent advice. I think that's a great place to sign off on this interview. But thank you so much, Bob, for
Yeah,
all
no,
of your
I love speaking
insight.
with you too. Yeah,
It
great
was,
time.
yeah, it was very, very educational and very inspiring. Hearing about your foray into the Rose Garden and introducing the President of the United States is a wonderful achievement and honor, and it just is a testimony to your advocacy efforts that you would be chosen for that
Yeah,
honor. So,
yeah.
congratulations on that.